Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Welcome back to In the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs and sponsored by Rebelton Distillery out of Osceola, Iowa, and Dan Douglas with Green Beret Realty. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partners and Cyclone greats, Brent Gervais, Marcus Pfizer. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Doing well, man.
Doing good.
And I see we have another Cyclone great who has joined us for tonight's episode. None other than, and this is a guy that a lot of names, a lot of us will remember this name, but Jake Sullivan played in the early 2000s. Jake, do you realize you are still the number 8 all-time scorer in Iowa State history?
Yes. And I still got the three-point record. Most threes made in a career. I barely hung on with Matt Thomas and Naz Long. So survived them and getting in good shape for probably another 5-10 years at least.
Is that a source of pride that you carry with you?
That three-point record, yes. The scoring, that was good. But, yeah, I was never going to catch guys like Fies. But, yeah, that most threes. And now with the transfer portal, guys coming in and guys coming out.
It'll be solid for a minute now.
Yeah.
It'll be solid for a good minute.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing, Jake, you were also a prolific free throw shooter. You know, one of the best to ever wear a Cyclone uniform.
Yeah, that's because I was afraid of my mom growing up. He cared about nothing other than me making free throws. And I could have 40 in a game, and she'd be like, you missed 2 free throws. So
yeah,
it's more of a fear thing than a shooting thing.
Well, you may have gone several months without missing 2 free throws. So she did you well.
I didn't miss very, very many of them because of her.
So you and Marcus have a lot in common. I think Marcus graduated. If he had stayed at the additional senior year, you would have overlapped him by a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would have probably had a national title ring too, instead of losing to Hampton in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
When
this guy wanted to go get paid, so he abandoned.
When it was my last year. When it was my last year, I was like, damn, I ain't gonna get a chance to play with Jake. That definitely would open up a lot for me on the inside, a lot more. You know, Mike Nurse did a great job, but Jake had that a little bit more of a flame throw on this hand. So, but I had to go a little bit earlier than normal. So I didn't get the chance to play with them, but I would have loved to have.
So, Jake, give us a little bit of your background for those listeners and viewers that may not be as familiar with you. You came out of Minnesota, highly touted, joined the Iowa State team in the 2000, 2001 season?
Yep, 2000, 2001. So it was funny because I grew up playing in a Nike AU program for Howard Pulley. And so I committed to Iowa State, which was an Adidas program, which was against all the rules. And then they weren't very good. That was kind of, I think it was going to be Eustachy's second year there. So it's kind of a rebuild. It's like, what are you doing? You know, North Carolina, Kansas, everybody had offered. I was smart enough to know I was never going to play over Vince Carter at North Carolina at the time. And so went to Iowa State when it was not popular to go to Iowa State. Then they made me look really good with that Elite Eight run. Should have beat Michigan State in that Elite Eight game. Yeah, and then came and won Big 12 my freshman year and then lost to Hampton because Marcus Pfizer wasn't there.
Marcus, you're going to hear about this all night now, aren't you?
Hey, man, listen, I in hindsight, like the whole story goes and everything, you know, my parents' house burned down and they didn't tell me anything about it from, you know, when it occurred in February until after the season was over. And that was pretty much, you know, the final decision to make the decision to take the leap to the NBA. If it wasn't for that, I was definitely coming back because, I mean, the team was there. I was so depressed after losing to Michigan State, you know, and to be able to come back and do it again with the guys that we would have had coming in would have really been special. But I remember where I was when that layup rolled off the rim for Jamal Tillman. My goodness. And then in Chicago, I heard the end, you know, he threw the game and I'm like, man, he could have missed that layup again 100 times if he tried to.
No. Yeah, Hampton played a perfect game and yeah, I still have nightmares, but I cheer for 15 seeds every year because of it. So,
well, now we got some 16s taking down one. So,
now we got 16s taking down one. But this thing now, like Fies, if we were playing in 2024, you would have been getting paid in college. I would have gotten paid in college. Curve, you would have got paid in college.
Yeah.
Weird all. Somebody was telling me, I was talking to Eustachy's son the other day. He's like, you would have got 250 easy.
Well, that and Curve and probably would be playing football and basketball, knowing him, and hell, Marcus playing both football as well.
Hey, yeah.
Man, trying to get some extra years up in there to try to, you know, because at this point, you know, some of these guys, like if you're making good in college. And you love being a student athlete, love being a kid while you're growing up and you making money like that, there's no reason really to, you know, go on into the pros. I mean, you got some guys, there's some guy in college basketball right now, I think he's on his 7th or 8th year.
Yeah.
But, you know, times is different. Time is changed.
That dude in Miami is on his 8th year, a tight end.
Is that him, though? Is a black kid?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, the quarterback at Utah is like on his 7th year, maybe, I think, something like that. So these guys are, I mean, shit, I'm making $500,000 and I'm a college student. It's kind of hard for me to,
right.
It's going to be tough for you to risk it to go to the next level, knowing I might get cut. You know what I'm saying? I won't get any of that, right? So it's like, well, you squirrel away a couple pennies now and then take the leap. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and now it's starting to slide down to the prep school world. There's a prep school, Utah Prep. They paid one of their guys, top kid in the country, $1 million to come to their prep school.
Wow.
It's like $1 million and you're still a high school student to go play at a high school. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Up for that. So, Jake, what was that like? You know, Marcus is transitioning out. You're transitioning in. There was a bevy of stars that fans were familiar with from that Elite Eight team. You're inserted as a freshman right away. What was that experience like?
Just prayed to God I didn't screw up and get cussed out by Eustachy every day. That was
what happened regardless.
Mom?
Yeah. That breakdown board, like people don't ever talk about it.
Did I tell y'all about that breakdown board? I told y'all about that breakdown board. That breakdown board was depressing.
It was like, I would just be like, after a game, please God, just let it be close to even. It's when I walk
nowhere close.
And I would think I played a great game. And I'd walk in and played 27 minutes and had 59 breakdowns. And half of them weren't even true. I know they weren't true.
I'm telling you guys.
So what was the breakdown board? What, but a list of positives and negatives?
No, there were no positives. Only the things you could do wrong in the course of a game.
Right.
And if you played 27 minutes, you needed 27 breakdowns. Like it needed to be like an even. I was usually double.
At least, like Jamal Tinsley used to set the record. Like we knew we maybe seen Mel positive twice, maybe twice all year long. He didn't care. Mel was gonna do what he's gonna do. But Jake is. I mean, he's telling you the truth. You can have the best game, and we beat Kansas, and the only thing everybody thinking about is that breakdown chart. It's the only thing everybody's thinking about. It's depressing, man.
And that thing was life and death to Coach Stacey. Right?
Yeah, right.
That's the only thing he cared about was that breakdown board. We were trying to smooge up the managers because they were the ones doing it. And we had a guy named Jafar, and Jafar was he was like a rule for. He was trying to get us mistakes, and
right.
So it was that was something else. I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell you one quick funny story. So we did this one-on-one drill every day in practice. It was miserable. It was twice. You went up and down twice. Losers are on a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I got partnered with Jamal Tinsley, and I was never going to beat Jamal Tinsley in this one-on-one full court deal. It's my whole freshman year. Jamal pulls me aside early and says, "Hey, here's the deal, Fresh. One day I'm going to win. One day you're going to win. The next day I will win, and you'll win. We'll just rotate different days every day who's running that suicide." So I'm sitting in the middle of psychology class like one December day. And all of a sudden the manager shows up to class like, "Coach Eustace needs to meet with you immediately." So I come rolling in to meet with Coach Eustace like, what did I do? Here's Jamal sitting in there. Coach Eustace had caught us on film. Mm-hmm. Like he was supposed to play to 2, and if whoever won, well, we were just rotating. We weren't even keeping score. Like I was just doing whatever Jamal said. We ran so much. Like we just ran. He made us run the stadium rest of the afternoon. And I'm looking at Jamal like, dude, you got me into this mess. Like, yeah. So that was Coach Eustace. That was my freshman year. Sums it all up.
Welcome to college life, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Although you look at the results, between Marcus's last year, your freshman year, collectively you won. I didn't do the math here, but 57 games?
They translated
results.
Oh, yeah, he could coach. And he did so much for me in my life. Like, I didn't realize it when I was going through it, but I was doing some ministry work in Chad, Africa, in the middle of the hardest places ever. And I texted him. I'm like, "I'm so grateful I played for you. Like, this isn't even hard." Right? Like, there wasn't much we were going to experience in life that was harder than playing for Coach. Really
and not in a negative way, like he wasn't throwing no bottles or no balls at us or anything like that. Like it was just a mentality that we had as a team, a hard-nosed defensive grinding team. And what we went through in practice, he's talking about the one-on-one drills. They probably had the small rim on top of the basket where the ball wouldn't go in. So I mean, just to do anything to survive, we played those drills not for points, but for stops. So, you on the court like 45, we look up at the time, we've been in one drill 45, 50 minutes. So when you're practicing like that, when it's time to get into the game, there's no holds barred then. Then, he's cool. He got his Diet Coke on the side. We're running, we're hooping, and we blowing everybody out. But once you get back into practice, and the one thing I hated practicing at the Hilton. Man, I hated practice at the Hilton. The foyer, what is it? What's the name of the place across from the rec?
Oh, Forker.
The Forker building. I like to practice that because it's smaller. But practicing at the Hilton, it was cold, and being up in there for 3 or 4 hours with him. I used to ask Coach Perry, like, man, like Leonard, man, they were like, "Hey, I went through it, young fella. You got to go through it now." And that's just how it was.
Yeah, it was how it was. I remember Thanksgiving. We almost lost to Morningside. I don't know if people ever remember that. I think we beat them in like double overtime. And the next day was Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. We practiced for 4 hours that morning, 8 to noon. He took us to the country kitchen for Thanksgiving dinner. And then we went back and practiced for another 3 hours. I was like, I'm never going to lose to a Morningside again or even get close to losing to a Morningside again.
I think we were close to like with Western Illinois like that. Well, we almost lost the game. I think it was the game where Mike Nurse he had gotten hit by that truck when we were crossing the street and he had been out for some games. And his face was all swollen and everything. He wasn't supposed to play that game. And we was losing. I think we were down big to Western Illinois, and he came in and knocked down some big time threes. Same scenario, but you would think during the holidays, Larry didn't care. The exact same thing. We practiced on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no.
Oh, look at this footage.
This is some great footage right here. There's gonna be a few threes.
Freshman by coming out here and taking the shots. He's got great confidence in his shooting ability. He's one of the best shooters that I've seen. And in practice one night, he shot a shot, missed it, shot another one from the same spot, missed it. What the heck? I never missed two in a row from the same spot. He hit the next one and then moved over. And he's got great touch.
Somebody measure that rim. Can't be right. Well, this is Wadlington playing with those two fouls. Leader for this team, point guard. Ian Stokes, number 14, the backcourt, played together in junior college. There's another block for Iowa State.
Yeah, let's not replay that. That just brings back Country Kitchen things.
Oh my gosh,
memories.
Was
that's
that
2000?
That footage was awful, by the way. You need to.
An exhibition.
They need to re-enhance that or something. Shit, that was terrible.
That was crazy.
Gotta do better, man.
So Jake, Marcus tells us about the big guys used to really up, down, low. What about for you?
What about the big guys now?
Who are some of the tough guys that you played with?
Oh, played with or played again?
Either played with or maybe against in practice. Marcus talks a lot about like Roman and some of those guys that used to body him up down low and taught him to be a Big 8 or a Big 12 player.
Yeah, well, Jamal was the best you could have ever played against. I just remember my freshman year, we had small group workouts. You had these like groups of 4 all fall before the season started. And I'm a freshman coming in, and I thought I was pretty good, but he paired me up with Jamal Tinsley, Contrell Horton, and Brandon Hawkins. And I was like, this is going to be a really long ball. And all we would do in these workouts is play one-on-one from the wing. You had to get a stop to get off defense. Well, I couldn't stop Jamal. I couldn't stop Contrell, and Brandon was way bigger and stronger than me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And some days I would be in defense for the whole hour, just trying to get a stop. And so just those guys helping me transition right out of high school into college and that whole experience that fall before the season ever started. The best player I ever played against in the Big 12 was Kirk Heinrich, without doubt. No question about it. And I always felt better because he went and became an all-defensive NBA guy. But I could score on about anyone and felt pretty comfortable. But Heinrich was a nightmare. He was so long. People didn't realize how long he was. He had 6'7", 6'8" wingspan easy. You could never get contact as an offensive player. He always did such an amazing job, like maintaining a gap, but taking it away with length. And he was by far, and then he could dominate an entire game and not score. And there's just not a lot of guys that can do that. So he was by far the best guy I ever played against. But Contrell, Jamal Tinsley, Brandon Hawkins, small group. Yeah, I still might have nightmares from that fall.
That sounds like my freshman story. And you can throw Brad Johnson into the mix with, Tony Rampton and, even Paul Shirley and Clay Edwards. Like, come on, man. And same thing. I thought I was so good coming in. And as a freshman, I had 18 hours my freshman year, my first semester, and then had to go to practice.
Wow.
It was brutal. It was brutal. But as you say, as you start to get acclimated and okay, I'm starting to figure it out a little bit. But those first couple months before the season started, man, it was by the grace of God that I made it to the season because I thought, man, everybody on the team was going to the NBA. That's how much more physical and how much he can stop Jamal Chin. I can stop a Clay Edwards jump hook. I mean, just basket after basket after basket. I'm like, what the hell? Just fundamental over the top scoring. And so he's used to it. And I'm like, I'm not, I was a shot blocker in high school. Now when I got to college, that's a whole lot different. So that's absolutely true for sure.
And then Jake, you ended up playing with Curtis Stinson, correct?
I did.
Half of your career.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Curtis was great. Curtis and I became really, really good friends post college. We clashed a ton. He was a senior. He was a freshman. I was a senior. He was a freshman. We clashed a ton when we were teammates, but the dude loved to win. And we always found common ground there. And then we ended up coaching our kids together for a while and became really good friends. He coached with me at Kingdom Hoops and helped run a lot of that program, and had so much respect for him. I also had never seen a guy so easily get a triple-double. Jamal was in my opinion, Jamal was a better point guard for me, because all I had to do is go find somewhere and he was going to find me. Where Kurt was just a triple-double machine. And he could go, if he hears this, he probably won't be happy with me saying this, but like he could go like a couple days without practicing. He'd have some hamstring injury, or he'd have his toenail hurt or whatever, and not practice, and then show up against Kansas and get a 34 points, 12 assists, 11 rebound game, and you're like,
just tough.
Yeah. Right? He was just really, really a special basketball player.
And you know what, Jake? If you were able to do that, I'm sure you could take a few days off in practice as well.
I couldn't do that. Like, I needed every minute in the gym possible. I did not have what Curtis Stinson had. That was for sure.
So one of the things we talked about too on this show is the training in the meal prep that goes into. So Brent spent quite a bit of time with it wasn't Hamburger Helper, Brent, help me out. It was the other
Hamburger Partner. Hamburger Partner.
So Jake, as I recall, because I'm old enough to remember this, you were a little doughy maybe your first year or so, but then you really went through a transformation physically. Mm-hmm. Did you move from the Hamburger Helper, whatever it was, to a new program, or what was that like? I stopped eating Gumby
pizza sticks at midnight. So I don't know if you ever had Gumby pizza sticks back in the day, and then Pizza Pit at 1 a.m. That was not a good idea either. Cut that from the diet. But the story behind all that is one coaching stage. He was really big into your bench press, like that was life or death to him. And I remember, I'm going to bench 300. I'm going to bench 300. So I wasn't necessarily worried about my body. I was just seeing how strong I could get. And then I played Hollis Price. And Hollis Price was a first-round pick in the NBA draft. Played at Oklahoma. And Hollis dropped, I think, 39 on me at home in Hilton Coliseum. And I couldn't breathe. He never stopped moving. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't keep up. He torched me that night. And I was just like, never again is that going to happen, where I feel like the guy I'm competing against is in better shape than I am. So then I went and, I ended up losing like 25 pounds. And I think my body fat went from like 12% to 5%. And I ate tuna and chicken for the next 3 years.
Well, I know about the next season. It was physical. You could see the big difference there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had great strength guys, but I never wanted to experience what I experienced that night when Hollis Price, and there was nothing I could do. And rarely had I ever been a player where there was just nothing I could do. And it was so clear when I walked back to my apartment that night, was just like, he's in better shape than I am. And if I want to really do this thing at a really high level, like I'm going to have to match that. And that was the story. And from there on out, we didn't have all like the food, like all that technology that athletes have now. We didn't have any of that back in the day. Like my son's at a prep school right now, right? Like his sleep patterns are measured. He's on a special food program. The meals are delivered to the house, right? All this crazy stuff with his diet. Mm-hmm. Plus, it was like, go back to the apartment. Right. Yeah. Eat tuna helper, right? And
you got to get them 2 pounds from Pizza Pit. 2 pounds of wings and some barbecue sauce.
Right.
Correct.
Business.
Yeah. And we didn't have great training table, like all those things the athletes have now at Iowa State.
It was terrible.
We didn't have any of that. Like it was terrible. I remember I would opt out of the food plan just so I get more money each month to go buy my own food because the food was nasty.
Yeah.
Now
take a quick break so we can hear a word from our sponsors. On the other side, Jake, I want to ask you a few questions, learn a little bit more about what you're up to now, and talk a little bit more about this season's men's basketball and women's basketball, for that matter. We'll be back right after this word from our sponsors.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
In 2023, a crack Green Beret named Dan Douglas retired his military command and promptly escaped to a full-time career in real estate. Today, this man is wanted by home buyers and sellers who want to survive the process without spending a fortune. If you have a home to sell or want to buy one, maybe you can hire Dan Douglas at Green Beret Realty. You can find him at greenberetrealty.com. greenberetrealty.com.
All right, we are back with Jake Sullivan, former Iowa State men's basketball player from the early 2000s. Still today, the number 8 scorer and the best free throw shooter in the history of the team. And Jake, so we talked a little bit about your playing history in your days as a freshman. What are you up to today?
Yeah, I'm married. We have 9 children and one on the way. So we've got a lot of kiddos.
Congratulations. March, right?
Yeah. What's that?
March, right?
March. Yep, coming up. So, I did a bunch of work for about 10 years in and out of Africa. So I have 3 adopted, 3 biological, and then we're a blended family. So 3-step, and then my wife is pregnant. So it's a really cool deal. I work for a group called, I'm up here in the Twin Cities, up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I was born and raised, and work for a group called Pulse Evangelism. So we do large-scale Christian outreach events all over the world. And so, like, for example, we did an event. I'm in charge of an event. We do it right in Times Square. So we're like KB, Christian rap artist, right in the middle of Times Square, right where the ball drops last year, working with a group called the Jesus Week Movement. So just stuff like that, kind of large-scale Christian outreach events. And then I coach, really involved in the basketball world, coaching my kiddos, and then have a nonprofit called One City, Minnesota. So we kind of do two things. You know, St. Paul and Minneapolis, there's so much need in the city, and really working with minority students. We do a lot of minority student advocacy work here and around the Twin Cities. It was kind of, the ministry was born out of after everything went down with George Floyd, and our city was in ashes. And then we do a lot of work with single parent advocacy work, so helping single families out. So my wife and I both know that world a little bit, and just providing resources, navigating systems, all that kind of stuff. So we got our fingers in a few things, but love the work, love doing what we do, and love staying involved in the game of basketball for sure.
Just with the 9 children, I think I would be too busy to even work.
My wife is amazing, and they keep us busy. They're starting to get older. So we've got like one's in South Korea right now, finishing up his degree. One's at prep school. One's going to Augsburg playing college football. So we've got some in the house, some out of the house. My car insurance bills are not good, but other than that,
or cell phone bills,
yes. We're slowly going to hopefully get some of them off the payroll.
So Jake, I knew when you were coaching down here at Kingdom Hoops. Do you still have that itch to coach? And have you ever been approached about other opportunities at the college level?
You know, It's been interesting. I haven't. I think you always have that itch. You have the itch to compete. Let's say that, and I really enjoy the player development side of stuff. And we had a lot of success starting All Iowa Attack and then Kingdom Hoops, and helping players develop. So I think that's always there. Just the right door has never opened, for whatever reason. So I've kept myself pretty busy. Though I coach with D1 Minnesota up here, so they're an Adidas shoe club, and really involved, and kind of I like working with those younger kids, especially right now, and then handing them off when they get to high school. But yeah, we'll always see. You know, I've had conversations with a few people in recent years, but just the door hasn't been right. I don't know if I want that lifestyle, uprooting my kids and family and being gone all the time. Like, you just don't get that back. And, you know, so we'll see. We'll see what the days ahead has. But I really like doing ministry. And that's always probably been a factor too, is, you know, it's hard to do that at a public university. And there's some that can do it. You know, Tony Bennett has done a great job at Virginia. Obviously, Rich McKay over at Liberty is a good friend of mine. You know, but I the ministry side of stuff is as important to me as anything on the basketball court, for sure.
You know, speaking of Tony Bennett, recent news here in the last week or so that he's decided to step down, and one of his concerns is just the whole world that we live in now with college athletics and payments and NIL and that. How's that affected you from you're working with youth and you're working with programs that you're trying to coach up and develop to be able to maybe step up and play for some of these college programs? What has that been like for you as a youth coach and really working on the development side?
You know, I think it's hard, right? I think there's this wrestling. You want those opportunities and the freedom that the athletes have. I think it's going to make college athletics more exciting. You know, teams can go from bad to good in a year. The mid-major schools can all of a sudden grab the right couple guys out of the transfer portal, and all of a sudden Florida Atlantic is in the Final Four. You know, so things like that can happen, which I think makes the sport exciting. I think the concern is it's just not real life. Like, if I get up and I just can't get up and leave and go do something different the next year all the time. You know, like where's the stability in that kind of a lifestyle where it's like, okay, I got this year and now they won't give me this, so I'm going to go here. And I think for coaches like Tony Bennett, they love to pour in. I know Fran McCaffrey as well at Iowa really well, and my son has had the opportunity to play with him. They love pouring into 4-year guys. You know, Tony Bennett being in a ministry, like thinking about it from a ministry, like I get to do life with someone for 3, 4, 5 years. Now it's like, man, I got 7 months with this guy and he might bounce on me. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you pour into somebody with a long-term vision for development or just relationship if guys are bouncing all the time? You know, so I think there's some concerns from that side working with young people. It's just like, where does this go when real life kicks in? Even my son right now, my son's at a prep school, United Prep. Like, the amount of resources that they're pouring into the kids, the opportunities he's having, you know, you're talking about reclassing because it becomes the older you are, the better position you have for recruiting, the better position you have for recruiting, the more money you're going to make, becomes a business decision. But they're pouring all these resources in because there's also value to them. And it's like, dude, like, none of this is real life. Like, you're living, I'm awesome. The opportunity is amazing. I'm so glad you have the opportunity. But like, someday you're going to have to come back where, man, I'm eating hamburger helper again. Right. And I gotta try to pay the light bill, and I got to try to grind, you know, so it's just different. And I think you can embrace it and change with it, or you just got to get out of it. And I think that's what Tony decided to do, just get out of it.
Do you follow the men's team much?
Yeah, I'm a big TJ fan. So, and Eric Crawford, Eric Crawford is the assistant. He was my high school teammate.
Was he really?
Yeah, we were high school teammates.
Going to Northern Iowa, right?
Yeah, went to Bowling Green for a year, and then you and I. And yeah. So I've stayed pretty tight with all those guys.
Okay. So big. We were talking before the show started, though. This may be the epics of Iowa State athletics. We've got the men's basketball team in top 5. We've got the women who are top 8 8th or 9th. We've got the football team that's 10th, undefeated for the first time since 1938, 4-0 for the first time in conference play. It's really exciting times, but yet, as we talked a little bit before the show, between you and Marcus and those early 2000 teams and McCarney, you guys had it all going about that time too. And Fennelly was there with the Twister sisters. I mean, this seems to be what goes around comes around. We're starting to hit another high, really, for all the teams within the athletic program.
Yeah, with that question. Yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah. For us, it was pretty much trying to break into helping the university, Iowa State athletics be better. Because I mean, we talk all the time about Coach Mack, and I remember being there in some of those cold, snowy games where, I look up at the score and it's 48-9 or something crazy. But he still plugged at it. We still was plugging at it, supporting each other. And as the years, begin to pass, guys got better, matured and stuff, and we started to change the dynamic of Iowa State athletics across the board. And so, like now, it's expected. We're not looking. If we have a bad season, it don't matter what sport it is. We're like, man, what the hell is going on? Because we're so much used to the football team being good, basketball teams being good, the ladies teams being good. It's something that we're definitely expecting. It feels good, absolutely, right now to be a Cyclone. I mean, look at the guys we got in the NFL. I was watching McDonald the other night and just like, man, and everyone, where does this guy come from? I'm like, shit, he came from Iowa State. You wouldn't know of that because, in the times in the past, you weren't thinking about us as a football program that's having success. And our guys are having success. So at this point in time right now, to be a fan, to be an alumni is definitely great. And we just, continuously hoping for great things. Simple as that.
Jake, did you guys ever cross paths when you were in college? You were there about the same time.
We were there at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
This guy was a legend, of course.
Yeah.
So that's Mr. Scoop and Score himself.
Just a young fella trying to make it, man. That's all. Staying out the way.
So, Jake, Brent or Marcus talks about McCarney allowed him and some of the basketball players to come in and work out with the football players. Are there any photos of you and Brent working out together, bench pressing?
No. You saw how Marcus was built. Like Marcus deep down wanted to be like a DN. I had no desire to be around this crazy football guy. Outside of a Saturday night party, I was not lifting with those guys. I hang out with them Saturday night after a game.
That's it.
Marcus's McDonald's All-American photos. No. He had these little twigs for arms.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
There
was some skinny arms during that time. That was pre-McCarney though. It was like post, a little bit different. But I mean, Jake plays a guard, so they run around on the outside. They may cut through the lane. They don't live in the lane. I got to live in the lane. That's a little bit different. Yeah,
I was able to manipulate myself through the weight room on the basketball. Their strength guy they had. What was his name, Brent?
Getty, Coach Getty.
Getty was crazy.
Yeah,
like a good way crazy. But like he was like, you better put every weight away. There better not be any dust on the floor. Like guys who lifting 600 pounds in there like that.
Squatting, leg press. He used to have this thing where when you bench pressing, they used to put that pencil on your chest so you couldn't break the pencil. Y'all didn't have that, Brent?
So like, yeah, we did. I'm gonna tell you. So Getty had this thing where, like, he would try to break you as a freshman because I came in and I could bench, 375. I could squat, 500 pounds. Getty had me benching 35 and squatting the same until I did it the way he wanted me to do it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, bro, this is like child's play. But he had this thing like, you're gonna do it like the way I want you to do it. So I'm like, used to moving all this weight, and now I'm like at 135. Well, slow it down. Then the pencil comes on your chest. You better not break it. Don't bounce it off your chest. Go real slow. And then you had to like not ding dumbbells. I don't know if y'all experienced that, but when you were in his weight room, if you took dumbbells off the rack, you better walk them back real slow, because if they ding, you had to do some work. Like if they made any noise, if they touched, they clinked, did any of that, it was, oh, let's go, let's hit this mat. We're about to get some work in. But, it was wild, man, to think about. But just like you taught you guys so much too. It's just like Getty taught us so much discipline, but we didn't realize it. You know what I'm saying? So super small lessons. We're paying so much attention to detail because we didn't want to do that extra work. We didn't want the weights to touch. We had to make sure we were 3.5, 4 count away down, barely touching your chest. Because if you broke this pencil, it was over. Like you had to start over. And so, hindsight, it's like, man, so much discipline we learned. But so I would
hear stories. Like I stayed out of that place. I would just hear stories. Todd Miller was like probably my best friend, and we've been King of Hoop together. He's still running King of Hoop. Todd was like the shortest, fastest dude I'd ever seen in college. And he's not fast anymore, but he would tell me stories. I was like, there ain't no way I'm walking in there. Like I would look through the glass in the training room and like, nah.
So Brent, would you look over at those basketball players walking in, and would that just motivate you to lift more?
Nah, you better not take your eyes off whatever you're doing, because again, your weights claimed. If you dropped anything or hit something, that was extra work, and I was not about to do nothing extra.
We wasn't coming in there moving no weights like them guys was moving.
We used to have to put a stick behind our heads like this and walk on the Stairmaster for some of that extra work, and none of that was fun. So imagine doing the Stairmaster on like level 13 with no help. So you're just walking. Your hands are up here with those stretch sticks that you use to kind of, stretches in. You're walking with that stick on the Stairmaster, and them steps don't stop. So they're moving. Like they're coming right after each other. Yeah, so I didn't see nobody in the training room. I was trying to make sure I did my job. That was it.
Jake, where was your favorite place to play outside of Hilton? Because obviously Hilton Magic was one thing. In fact, I think your teams really helped to elevate Hilton Magic to another level after Coach Orr left. But for you and Marcus, we know where Marcus' favorite place. Where was Jake Sullivan's favorite place to play?
Oh, Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah, no. One, it was a shooter's gym. Right, so that's always number one on the list. I don't even care about all the other stuff. Like, is it easy to shoot in there? And I thought it was the greatest shooting gym outside of Hilton Coliseum, the best shooting gym you could play in. And then I would always said, too, about Kansas fans, as bad as we want to beat them, they're knowledgeable. Like, they know the game. Like, the Oklahoma State fans, like, they were just idiots.
Right.
Like, there's no other way to define it. I hated the place. I hated the fans. They were all dressed in orange. The rim blended in with the crowd. It was a weird arena. And they didn't know the game. They're just saying dumb stuff the whole game.
I'm sorry, did you say Oklahoma State or Carver Hawkeye Arena? I wasn't.
Well, Carver Hawkeye has no environment. There's no environment there. Like, it's probably, like, in my opinion, it was one of the most dead places to play. Because the fans are kind of like up and you're down, and there's not a great atmosphere there.
It's dark too. Like, it's a little dark.
Dark and it wasn't a bad place to shoot, which is typically how I judged every arena. So, but yeah, it was. Wow, what did Marcus say is his favorite place?
Marcus, go at it.
Say again.
What was your favorite place?
Oh, the same place, Kansas.
Kansas. Oh yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, that's easy.
Kansas.
And to beat them, it's just there's no better feeling than to beat
right.
Kansas.
All right, they have really, really soft rims. I mean, we know we have no shooters really like you, but I mean, to have that kind of touch, how focused you had to be going into that gym. It was business. It was a business trip, playing good sound basketball. I remember telling the story like, I'm like, damn, if I get a dunk this game, it's going to be. And then last year, I think I ended up with 3 dunks in that game, but it was hard work off of play, help off, sneak dunks. Like, it wasn't like me off the dribble and going and freestyling type dunk. It was like workman's dunk and off the rim and getting back on defense type.
Yeah.
You know, I might as well do a layup. So, but being able to play in that gym, not to hear them sing that song, that Rock Chalk Jayhawk song,
Yes.
you know, that's the best thing ever. Because even my freshman year, we lost them on my freshman year. We didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't lose to them that bad. So, you know, usually the whole second half when they blowing somebody out, they singing it the whole second half. But we didn't lose to them that bad. My freshman year with Paul Pierce and Wait for the Friends them there. I don't know, maybe they were out partying the night before or something. But, you know, then when we went back my junior year, obviously we beat them. And we had already beaten them at the Hilton. So, you know, it's just was a real feeling to go down there and, you know, played such a sound game, it being close and coming out with the victory. You know, great, really great. 55 years, baby.
Hey,
I think
Jake,
it was what, like 50
I can tell you
years?
that Brent's son Malachi is going to be a Jayhawk.
Wow. Football or just going to school?
Football.
Yeah. Playing football.
Hey.
I told him it's always going to be a basketball school, but I mean, whatever.
They've gotten better, though. They've gotten better.
Yeah, we've gotten better. But
hey, and Lawrence is a great place. Like, I think it'd be a great place to have a college experience. It's a great little town, and the weather's nice, but it's still Lawrence.
I think it's just the perfect place for him, in my opinion. It's you don't want to follow dad's footsteps, because I think, you know, every time you walk on campus with your dad, it's like, well, about me. So, you know, he wants to write his own story. So, not mad at it at all.
And we're still going to trash Kansas. I'm sorry. I can't support.
My son
can't
played
wait,
football at Iowa, so I can't really.
I remember that. Yeah. He did go to
How did
Iowa.
it work? Jake, how did that work? How did you let him do that?
Well, here's a little bit of the story. So the Big 12 really didn't recruit him. You know, it was more spread offense. He didn't fit what Iowa State did. And he's a Big 10 football kid. And, you know, Kirk Ferentz asked me if I'd have a problem with it. And I said, are you paying for his school? And he said, yeah. And I said, no, I won't have any problem with it.
Right.
You know, if I got to wear some Hawkeye gear on a couple Saturdays, so be it.
Right.
But he had a great experience. And the crazy part is I think my daughter's going to end up there for nursing school. So I'm going to end up having a couple Hawkeyes in the house. So
Man.
I don't know what's going on.
I was decided for real, huh?
Yeah. I still remember the first time my whole family's in Eastern Iowa, Dubuque, Dyersville, that area. And the first time we played Iowa when I was a freshman, my grandma pulled me to the side before the game and said, grandson, I hope you do well, but I'm cheering for the Hawkeyes. I said, all right, that sounds good. That's the kind of family I grew up in. So me going to Iowa State was a crazy deal. So
you were the lone wolf in the family.
I was the lone wolf in the family. Everybody's University of Iowa, all Hawkeyes over there.
So this is sort of our preview show. We've really spent a lot of time talking about other stories. What are your thoughts on this year's team? You know, I don't know that we've had a season that we've started with so much expectations. You know, you look at Marcus, you've talked before with your junior season, expectations were relatively low and you way surpassed them going to the Elite Eight. If anything, Jake, freshman year was a lot of that, the hangover from that group coming in. There were probably some high expectations, but boy, starting the season top 5 in the toughest conference in the country, expectations are sky high for this team. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can start on that. You know, I think anytime you return guard, and there's nothing against the bigs and the power forwards in Marcus's world, but anytime you return high-level quality guards like Iowa State is, there shouldn't be a whole lot of drop.
Right.
You know, and in Iowa State last year, though we lost Robert Jones and the other big, you know, they did what they had to do defensively, and they added a bucket or two here, but they weren't like you were relying on them. And so with the guards returning, and then the four new bigs coming in, all who have 3-4 years of college experience at fairly high levels, all played 27-30 minutes a game last year, all of them averaged 10 a game, you would think you would make up for what you lost fairly easily and not have to start over in the backcourt. And I think you have that combination, you've got another great basketball team. So
Any players that remind you of a little bit about your game back when you were playing?
If you had to combine stuff, I'd like to think I was as tough as Taman. Taman is so tough. And he's been like that since second grade.
Yeah, we've watched him growing up. Yeah.
It looks like he's had that body since second grade.
Yeah.
He's one of those kids.
I remember coaching against him in 6th, 7th grade and being like, his best days are right now. Because his body was the same. Like, he's not going to be able to keep doing this. People are going to catch up to him physically, athletically, so on and so forth. It just never happened. He's still doing what he did in 6th and 7th grade. He's just doing it in the Big 12 now. I mean, it's crazy. But his leadership skills are off the charts.
Yeah.
And then Curtis Jones, I think his ability to shoot, get really, really hot. Yeah. I think he's more streaky than I ever was. But I saw him grow up here playing high school basketball in the Twin Cities. I mean, he can just score. He can shoot the lights out of it. So should be a fun year.
You got shooters galore now that once you bring in some of those big guys, if they can score down low, I mean, where are you going to beat this team? And we already know TJ's defensive mindset that this is going to be a tough out in every game that they play in.
Yeah, I think the challenge is right. You have 9 guys that play outside of DeMarion. You have basically your top 9 guys all played 30 minutes a game or expect to play 30 minutes a game. I think the only stumbling block is we have 9 guys that could play over 30 minutes a game. There's just not enough minutes. Typically the last couple of years, Iowa State has been these kind of 7-man rotations as a whole. And everybody can kind of go, the starters can go get their 30 to 34 minutes. When you have 9 guys that you can put on the floor realistically, maybe even 10 this year, somebody gets left out. How do you manage all that? And Taman's playing 38. So really you're going to be down to 160 minutes amongst 9 guys. How do you divide up those minutes and keep everybody happy? I think is the greatest challenge he's probably got.
Well, and even last year when Taman had that couple of games where he was out injured, that allowed for a guy like Curtis Jones to step up, and we would probably not be the same team last year that we were if Jones hadn't had those early games under his belt while Taman was injured. Correct. So you kind of hope that at some point that some of it, whether it's injuries or play itself, will sort of work through some of these issues. But I agree. I'll be curious to see what that rotation looks like and who's in and who's out. And maybe it's based upon who we're playing against, what kind of athletes that we're going against, if we're going to be guard heavy or if we're going to be bigs heavy.
Yeah. You can go both. It's interesting. You get Nate Heise, and not a lot of people are talking about him, coming in from UNI. By far UNI's best player. I'm biased towards him. So I've had the opportunity to work with him for all through his high school career and a little bit of his college career up here, doing individual training with him. But that's an elite basketball player. And it's like, man, where do I fit you into this puzzle? With the Jones and the Gilbert and all the pieces that you have. How do you take a guy like that and fit him into that puzzle? In particular, kind of being a more of a guard, a 2-3. So I think TJ's got some challenges there, but obviously the talent is a lot.
Thoughts on how the season progresses in this new Big 12 world with the new teams coming in, and again, the nation's toughest conference. Do you see a top 3 finish in the Big 12, and maybe what's your prognosis for the end of the season? Do you see ourselves in, I hate to say this, but the Final Four?
Marcus, that's all you.
I mean, absolutely. The Big 12 is what the Big 12 is. These guys know how tough it is. We know how to get out there and play. We know how to get out there and compete. I can see, just like the football team, as having a great start of the year, us doing the exact same thing. We're not going to focus on too much of what's going on in the regular season, get into the Big 12 conference and just focusing on that part more so than anything else. And come with me, as the rest of the season progresses. You really can't tell one way or another how things are going to line up. But, we definitely wish and hope for the best. Definitely would love to see them going all the way, past a Michigan State team and the Palace of Auburn here in Detroit, Michigan. But we're gonna see what's what, and we know TJ is gonna get those guys out there, and they're gonna compete at a high level. We got a couple of my Vegas guys that's on the team, that I'm looking forward to seeing having success, and we go from there. And one of them's a big, so I'm big biased. Very, very looking forward to seeing what Josh Jefferson can do in the Big 12. I've been coaching against him, been coaching with him since he was, in junior high. So I've seen the kid grow, seen his talent, seen the things that he's done here, even at Liberty High School. So very excited about that.
Well, and Mark is seeing on Instagram some of the things that the men's team has been putting out. I think Jefferson's been winning some of those rebounding challenges during practices too. So that's a pretty promising, because even let's say you're not going to score, TJ's going to put the guys in that are going to rebound that basketball, and that's a pretty important key to be able to transition into your offense.
Well, yeah, that's a staple. I mean, like Jake was saying earlier, like in practice, it wasn't about the scoring part. It was about the individuals, the different 3-on-3, 3-on-0 rebounding, or 3-on-3 rebounding, or 4-on-4. That type breakdown defensive drills is what we focus on. And if you can, find a way to win those type of challenges, it wasn't whoever made it to 7 or 8 points first. It was how many rebounds you got, how many stops you got, things like that. Those were the big wins. And then once you translate it into the basketball game, the other team don't know how hard you've been practicing, don't know the plays and anything like that. It tends to fall in line. So it's pretty simple, from then on. But we know the Big 12 is tough. But we're excited about this year for sure.
So Brent, we heard from Jake, talked about Nate Heisey being that player that no one's really talking about, and Marcus, you talked a little bit about Josh Jefferson. Brent, what is there somebody that you're looking forward to seeing out on the court, or is there maybe from a player development or a team standpoint that you're excited to see this year?
Not necessarily, not a player specifically. I just want us to win. Like I guess more than anything, I root for us to win. And like basketball is one of those sports where guys can have off nights, and it can be somebody that not plays hero ball, but jumps up and makes all he can make all the shots. You know what I'm saying? He shows up and shows out. So obviously there's way less guys on the court, but man, the reality is, like there's so many more upsets, I think, in basketball than there are in football, because some guys are really streaky, and that changes games on the basketball side. So reality is, man, I look for W's. Like I don't care how we get them. I want us to get them and allow them, so that it puts us in a much better position for a higher seeding towards the end of it all. So,
well, I think either way, that between the regular season, the Big 12 season, we're going to be one of the toughest teams to have to play in the NCAA tournament. The one player I'm looking forward to is Deshaun Jackson. Transfer in, he's a big 6'11", can shoot from the outside. Jake, I believe he's a pretty good free throw shooter as well, especially being a big guy. You got a guy down low like that you're able to move around, and between him and Momcilovic, who plays more like a 3-4, but is another tall guy that's able to shoot. That just creates matchup problems for any team. So yeah. I'm looking forward to Mr. Jackson being on the court.
Yeah, we could be way better inside, right? From an offensive perspective, ability to score, get easy buckets. Robert did a pretty good job last year towards the end of the year, finishing in and around the rim. But yeah, you get easy buckets. Guys like Marcus change everything, especially for guards. So it'll be interesting. I think the biggest thing with the season, though, it'll be so interesting. How do you manage the crazy travel that will take place now? And Texas and Oklahoma out, Arizona State in, UCF in, West. We've historically not played well at West Virginia. And it's just weird. It's weird travel. It's a different time zone. It's all those aspects that you're not used to, especially if you're doing multiple games in a week. So how do you manage? I think there's a whole weekend we're down in Arizona. You play Saturday at Arizona State, Monday at Arizona. You're in Western time zone for 4 or 5 days. Now you got to come back and play Kansas State a few days later. So it's just how do you manage that with the change of the Big 12 and the teams? And, then you're up in the mountain area and you're playing in Colorado, Boulder again, which is horrible to try to breathe in. And then you're at BYU and you're at Utah. There's a lot of different aspects you're going to juggle this season with just the makeup of the Big 12 now. And I think probably football, I don't think has experienced it quite to that level yet. But you got some of those similar challenges. You go and play at Utah, like what? And it's not a normal Big 12 game either. So it kind of feels probably pretty weird.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember years when the first go around when Colorado was in the Big 12, we would have good teams, whether football or basketball, go out there and just lay a stink bomb. It just
it sucks up there so bad, man. It sucks. Like I think we went up there and Coach Mack was really good at getting us in like as late as possible so that we can wake up and play the game, because he didn't want us to truly experience the elements, so to speak. And it was like, it mattered what you did. Like, the more you competed, the harder your heart was racing or whatever. And it was just like, everybody's like, oh, that was like 3 plays. Like, that's like, we're truly gassed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to be
definitely not a myth.
To know you're in like top tier shape. And then you're 2 plays and you're like, bro, like, get me out. Like, cause I can't, like, I can't breathe. Like, it's crazy, man. That's the true, like, cheat code, being able to play up in that and, play through that, man. That's a struggle for sure in Boulder. And it just sucks to play in. I never liked college.
Lungs burning. That's what my lungs used to do, just in and out. You got to breathe. It's not the in is burning and out is a relief. It's just the whole time just like.
Well, and now you got to do it 3 times a year, because I heard Utah is just as bad and BYU might even be worse than all of them. So it's just like, man, I'm going out there 3 times, not once. We just had to suck it up 1 time a year usually.
Right.
In Colorado. So it'll be interesting how they manage all that and how you facilitate lineups and all that goes into the strategy behind all that.
Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know we're all dads. I don't have kids with me today because I'm in a hotel in Eastern Iowa. But Jake, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Brett and Marcus, gentlemen, we'll see you next week for another episode of Inside the Storm.
Appreciate it. Good seeing you guys.
Good seeing you, brother.
Yep. Good to see you guys.
Man.
Be blessed.
All right.